Welcome to another episode of the Executive Interview Series. I'm Kevin Kermis, and today I'm joined by Kathy Simmons, who's the founder of Netshare, and we're going to be talking about networking and giving some practical advice to get better results. I want to share a little bit about Kathy. Kathy's been helping executives manage their careers since 1992, serving as a coach, mentor, and career matchmaker. Drawing from her early years abroad, helping people connect at diplomatic cocktail parties, Kathy understands the power of professional networking, and for the past 16 years has been applying her corporate matchmaking skills to build Netshare, an online executive career management service. She believes that to succeed, you need to be proactive in your career management, actively building your network, and promoting your personal brand rather than waiting for the next downturn or layoff. I couldn't agree more. Kathy has worked with chief executives at Fortune 1000 companies in good times and bad, helping them take charge of their careers and reinvent themselves for both personal and professional growth. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's jump right into it. What are some of the biggest mistakes you have seen made when it comes to networking?
Well, I think let me start by saying what's interesting is I think, first of all, usually you hear statistics bandied about that 60 to 80% of all jobs are found through networking. And that may or may not be true, but what it does is it sets up an expectation that I think is unrealistic and often detrimental to really the whole networking process. Because what it does is it makes people believe that this is somehow transactional, that it's almost like a gumball.
Right.
I go to this networking meeting and the job falls out here. And it is not about a transaction. It's about building a relationship. And so the biggest mistake I see is people who just think, I'm just going to go here and now I'm going to get my job. And I'll give you a little example of that. I talked to a member some time ago who was talking about he had gone to a meeting with someone, and the person at the end of talking to him said, well, I gave you 3 names. Now where are my 3 names?
Right.
And that doesn't work. It's not
right.
about that at all. And I think the second one is thinking, again, and it comes back to the concept of relationships, is thinking that it's all about you. And it's not about you, all about you. It's about the relationship. It's about building that. I mean, it's like any relationship, whether you were talking about personal relationships, business relationships. If it's one-sided, that relationship isn't going to work. And it's one of the best metaphors I ever heard for networking is, I believe it was David Sandusky who said that think of it like a bank account. If all you do is try and withdraw, pretty soon you don't have an account left. So you've got to make deposits, and you've got to think about it as a two-way street and not believe that it's simply about you.
That's a great analogy, and I I think also for those who are maybe what I would call reluctant networkers, it's infinitely easier if you're leading in with trying to find out something about the other person and how you can help them. It eases the burden of networking. It's an approach I've always taken because I would consider myself a relatively reluctant networker, which I think surprises a lot of people, but. I think it can diffuse the situation, and one of the other nice things it does is those people out there who are truly interested in developing relationships, because that's what this is all about, they're going to gravitate towards that. So,
Exactly.
like you're saying, the quicker you get away from it being all about you and making it about somebody else, and that reciprocity, which is kind of a word I'm reluctant to use, but it's true. Because we're kind of conditioned culturally to reciprocate when people help us.
Yes, exactly. And I think it makes it a lot more fun.
Absolutely.
One of the things, and I agree with you totally about taking the pressure off of you. And interestingly enough, people are usually surprised that I'm a bit shy too. And so for me, it's also much easier to go in and talk to people about what they need than it is, than it is for me to say, well, here's what I want, and you can do this, this, and this for me.
Right.
So it's a great way to lose some of that fear in the whole process. So, and I think the next mistake that I see with it, and again this comes back to a little bit of the relationship, and a lot of this is conditional on the situation, but it's not knowing what you want.
Right.
You know, many out of the relationship, many people go into it. You know, I'll say, well, what do you want to get out of this? Well, I want a job. Well, unless you're talking to the decision maker, you're setting yourself up to fail. Most people do not have jobs in their back pocket, and so. But what I do find is that most people really do want to help. And if you go to them, and every time you've gone to them, and this happens with if it's an established networking connection, it's sort of like many people who are first in search mode will immediately call everyone they know and say, well, I'm looking for a job. Do you know of anything? And you know, the person on the other end will go, well, I'm not really sure. I'll keep my eyes open though. You know, I really want to help you. And they don't have a job. They don't know about a job. They may not hear about a job. And then the next person the next time that person calls them, they react with, they're a little bit embarrassed because, gee, they don't have anything that they can give you. And the third time you call, they're not going to take your call.
Right.
Because now they're uncomfortable. So understanding that if people want to help, what they can offer, they can't necessarily pull a job out of their pocket, but they may have information. They may be able to help with introductions. They may be able to help, you know. So if you, and this comes to one of the other points of how you can really improve your networking, is if you know what you want, that you're, you know, here I am, I'm looking for jobs in this particular sector. Is there anyone you know who could talk to me about opportunities or about what's going on in that sector?
Well, you know, it's I think you hit the nail on the head. It's much more, you know, I tell people all the time, is it more important that people know you're looking or that they know you're exceptionally good at what you do? Because your employment status only matters to you. It really doesn't matter to anyone else. So you want to get people to know who you are, what you do well, and the best thing to do from a networking standpoint is to grow it exponentially, get to meet other people and not kind of pre-qualify it like that. Well, you started to jump into this. What are the three things that you would recommend somebody can do right now today to become more effective at networking?
Well, I think I started to jump into this, and I'll go back to it again, is that knowing what you offer. And that is both from the standpoint of how I can help not only the individual you're speaking to, but the other people in their network, whether that's the employer that may come out of this entire process or anyone else in the network. There's a person that I know that does the wonderful job of sending out information about saying, this is a little bit about me. This is how I can help. I'm looking to meet people who have this kind of background, and here's how I can help them. Now, that's a totally different approach than, and it comes from really understanding how you can help. And again, that's, you know, the secret to being hired. It's not about you. It's about what you can do in relationship to that situation. You know, it goes back to the old marketing thing of, yeah, you have all these features. When do they become benefits?
Right.
And so understanding, know what you offer, but what you offer relative to your network and to an employer is a big piece of this, of having success in networking. The second one, and that I think of a lot, and this is something that I think we've all been through. If you've gone to a networking event, there is nothing worse than talking to someone and realizing that they are scanning the room to see the next person they're going to talk to. So my point being, listen with interest. there's a lot of reasons to listen to interest. One, it's just downright common courtesy.
Right.
Two,
And if that's not enough, right? So
yeah, exactly. If your mother didn't teach you that,
right.
The other reason is that you can often find things that you would not find out on the surface about this person. That you can, if you're really listening with interest, and this can come back to helping you because you're finding other points of affinity, other things that they may know about. You're paying enough attention to them that you're creating, again, and we come back to that same word, it's about the relationship. I mean, no, everybody wants to be listened to. If you're sitting there going, okay, who's the next person I'm going to talk to here, and what can they do to me, or for me, to me, for me, you're losing the whole point of making that connection. Then the third, and this ties into both of these, and when you stop listening, you have to be able to articulate your value. Many people just don't get how that piece works. You know, I'm not necessarily a big fan of the canned elevator speech.
Neither am I.
You know, I mean,
I kind of liken it to telemarketers back in the day. You pick up the phone and they kind of verbally vomit on you. And that's what I feel like elevator pitches are. They're untargeted. I know what the intent is, but it's just kind of blah. It's not understanding your audience. It's couldn't agree more.
Well, you've hit it exactly, because when you say not understanding your audience, articulating your value, the biggest key in that is being relevant. Because as a friend of mine once said, if maybe you can cure cancer, but if that's not what I do, that's just oh, that's interesting.
Right.
It has to be relevant, and you have to. And again, that comes back to you've listened long enough to understand what might be relevant, and when you articulate it, you make it relevant. And I think that's a key to a lot of this.
Now, are there any additional comments or resources regarding networking that you would recommend to folks?
Well, one of the sort of seminal works in the whole networking process that people always refer to is Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a great book, not just about building relationships, not just in job search, but about building relationships in business. And face it, all business, and whether you're in search mode or whether you're in selling products or trying to build your customer base, whatever it is, it comes down to relationships. And so I think if I could leave people with one piece of advice is remember it's about a relationship. And you'll be all right if you keep that in mind.
Well, I truly appreciate you taking time to chat with us today. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to contact you directly?
Well, probably the best way to get a hold of me is through Netshare. Our 800 number is 800-241-5642. You can also welcome to visit our website at www.netshare.com. And just to give you an interesting side note, that when we started Netshare back in, actually it started in 1991, the net stood for networking, and the concept was sharing networks, and we're still about that.
That's fantastic. Well, I've looked at the site. I think it's great. Highly recommend that everyone go there and get involved and take advantage of all you have to offer there. Thanks again for taking time to share your thoughts today. I truly appreciate it.
My pleasure, Kevin.
For more in the Executive Interview Series, you can visit and find more interviews at kermisconsulting.com. And for both Kathy and myself, this is Kevin Kermis signing off.